Welcome to Keep Hustling, where we are going past the why to get to the how. I'm your host, the always hustling Aaron Gordon, aka NY Risk Advisor, aka Mr. Keep Hustling. In this podcast, we will be diving deep into the professional and personal successes of our guests to find out how they hustled through the most difficult times in their life and their development to achieve the success they've gotten to today. So buckle up for what hopes to be an amazing ride. Let's get to it. Welcome to Keep Hustling with my guest, Jordan Edwards. Jordan, thank you so much for being here today.
Aaron, thank you for having me on. I'm excited about this.
I always get nervous when I have another podcast host on the show. Hopefully it'll be fun. And afterwards you can give me any pointers or just tell me to give up the craft. You know, I always open with a question that relates to background or getting into the hustle or things like that. I have interviewed a lot of consultants, coaches, advisors as part of this journey on Keep Hustling. And each one has a unique perspective on hustle, obviously, and how people can maximize their hustle and how people can really achieve their dreams. Your journey is one that includes a few things that no one else that I've interviewed included. So I want to frame you becoming a podcast host, you working with some of the most influential business leaders in the world, but I want you to take us to the framing of marathons, Inca Trail. That vibe is the wrong word, but you know what I mean? It's not the average consultant personality.
Yeah.
Hobby.
So
you know what I mean?
yeah,
So it's like, where does that come from, and
100%.
how does it then get to where you are today?
100%. I think it comes down to which really always helped me is people have this definition of success, and it's working with the biggest partners, and it's making the most money, and it's doing all these things. But as you mentioned to me before, you're like, hey, I have 5 kids. Like, we have family. So we have these different pillars, which really helped me identify what was most important to me. So there's 5 pillars with Edwards Consulting. It's mental health, physical health, community service, philanthropy, spirituality, and relationships. And whenever I think about a goal, I try to include as many of these in that goal as I can. So that's where you get incredible opportunities. Like, for example, I ran the New York City Marathon. Why? Because an opportunity came up. A friend of mine on Instagram said we had some spots. I was like, this would be cool. I go, how do you join the team? He goes, oh, you got to raise $4,000. I go, awesome. So I text my brother because now that's another relationship. So now we're getting connected. And I go, like my brother Zach, I go, you want to be part of this? And he goes, yes, that would be amazing. So now we're raising $8,000 for this New York City Marathon for the Colorectal Cancer Alliance. And we have to run a marathon. So you got mental health, physical health, you got relationships, and then you also got community service aspect because we're raising money for these organizations that need it. So you start to realize like the more of these pillars you can put in, the better experience you can have. And that's why I've always redefined hustle as like, it's not just, hey, let me get the most clients, let me work the whole time, but it's how do we optimize our hustle in all the different areas of our life?
I love that. And I have said multiple times, people are going to hate that I keep saying this, that I believe that hustle is about each person defining and then redefining over the course of their life. You can't have your hustle can't be the same when you're almost 40 years old with 5 kids as it is when you're 16 and you think that maybe one day you'll be a professional basketball player. Those two, they don't work. Now it's this, that internal drive for a person is there and should be cultivated. And that's what I think hustle is about. But I've said multiple times, you know, my wife, who spends the majority of her time dealing with a household of 5 kids, is a greater hustler than I am, who is the host of the Keep Hustling podcast. And I think that there is definitely something there. And first of all, what year did you run the New York City Marathon?
2021.
Okay, because my twin brother ran it in 2024. He
Awesome.
wants to do it again in 2025. I do not. It's shocking. I know it's going to shock you. Not on my bucket list. I have a lot of comments about people that run marathons. Like, nobody who runs marathons as part of their training does a marathon, which means that you realize that the actual day of the marathon is a certain level of insanity.
Yes.
But if you train hard enough to run a marathon, then you can eat a dozen Krispy Kreme donuts. So fine.
Well, the most interesting thing about the marathon, and I think a lot of us start to realize this when we're in our business ventures or life ventures or whatever we're doing, you start to realize like To run 26.2 miles, you have to run like 300 miles in training, which is bizarre. So it's 10 times the effort that you originally thought to finish the task.
That's
You know what
true,
I
but you know the other part about it. I'm glad we're talking about this because I think it really drives on hustle, and I learned this from my brother, who, as I said, ran the marathon. First of all, the amount of people that, especially in the New York City Marathon, do the marathon. Right? I'm going to say run the marathon because their goal is to complete it. And by
Yes.
the way, I've never walked 26.2 miles either. I've never crawled 26.2 miles. So anybody who can do that has a certain level of my respect and admiration. But it's not like you have to run it, right? You like it's not like there's a time limit other than it becoming too dark. But you know what I mean? Like the average person, if you're walking at a decent pace, you can finish the New York City Marathon. And
Absolutely.
there's two things about that. I think that there's two things I would love to hear your perspective because you did it. One is, so why do more people not do it? Right?
Yeah.
Putting the time aside, the average person can find 6 or 7 hours on a Sunday and have a great time and walk and achieve this thing. Yet most people think the barrier to entry is higher. But
Yes.
the other part of it, which I was joking about before, but I mean this seriously, is nobody, when as part of the training, nobody runs 26.2 miles. You build up to it, but as far as every person I've spoken to
Of
says
course.
maybe 18, maybe 19, maybe
Yeah.
as you're building up your training, and certainly not the week before. The week before you're doing 10 or 12 or whatever.
Yeah.
Which means that when a person gets to the moment of execution of the task, to borrow your percentages, you're talking about a 20 to 25% delta of the longest distance they've ever run in their training. So forget about the fact that you're training 10 times against the output, which is a good point that you're making. The people have no idea whether they're going to be able to do it other than their own grit and determination.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not talking about professional marathon runners. I'm talking about like my brother. Those people said, okay, we're going to follow the regiment. The most we're ever going to run is 3 weeks before we're going to try to run 18 miles.
Yeah.
18 is not even close to 26.2. It's not even close. If you think about the effort and the difficulty and things like that. Yet people, that comes from here. That comes from the heart. Those
Absolutely.
last 8 miles. So I didn't mean to go off on that tangent, but I'm
No,
happy you
you're
brought
good.
that up.
You're good. It becomes quite interesting. I remember running my first one in 2019, and we were in Lake Tahoe. So I'm training in Tampa at 0 elevation, and then in Lake Tahoe it's 6,000 feet elevation. And I remember running with one of the guys, and he literally goes, "Yeah, once you get to mile 20, that's the halfway mark." I go, "What?" He goes, "That's halfway," and I'm like, "Geez, Louise." So I'm running, I'm doing this thing, and in both marathons, I felt it. Where you're absolutely right, those last 20 to 26.2 miles are incredibly difficult. But that feeling on the other side of I've actually done this, because it's so important for the audience to realize that we're not actually talking about running here. We're talking about life. Like, we're talking about expanding what we believe to be possible. And when you asked me, you said, why would someone do this? Why don't more people do it? It's because they don't have the belief. So originally when I did this, it was 2018, and I set 3 goals for myself for the year, because I sat there and I realized when I looked at the year, most people do a year in review, which is valuable, yes. But going forward, what are you going to do? So most people want to do resolutions. I don't have, like, you got resolutions, but let's set
AKA future
goals.
failures.
Yeah, let's set goals and be held accountable, because most people fail by February. So I sat there and I go, a marathon. I can do that in a year. I can
November.
do this in a year. Yes. And that was what it took for me to do the marathon and get serious about it, because I said, when have I ever held myself accountable? When have I ever really been serious about something? And at that point in my life, like, I graduated college, I studied, I did all that stuff, but there's something different when you go, hey, I'm setting a goal for myself and I'm going to manage myself and I'm going to make myself do it. That's where it becomes very impressive, and that's where you become capable. Like, even Aaron, you doing this podcast, like, you know what I mean? We do it out of our will, but like, we start to make decisions and we start to realize, like, I can do this. And you start to build confidence.
And I think that I was listening, my favorite podcast other than of course Clocked In is the Diary of a CEO. And one of the recent guests, I forgot his name. He's the expert on body leanness. He like talks about men being lean. I'm gonna find his name for you right now. His name is Jeff Cavalieri. He's like this
Okay.
like super fitness guy. It'd be great to have him on this podcast. But anyway, one of the things that he was saying, which really fascinated me and really clicked on the keep hustling thing, which is kind of what you were saying, is that there is a muscle, or there's muscle memory for doing hard things. And when the body and the mind and the soul and the heart have done hard things or done things that that it itself thought it couldn't do before, mentally, physically, psychologically, then when the next hard thing comes up, even if it was achieving running the marathon, completing the marathon wasn't just about physically completing the marathon. It's when the mental marathon comes, the project that you need to deliver on, the client that's giving you a hard time, the DIY project that you want to do in your garage. You've proven to yourself that you can do things that you thought you couldn't do before. And therefore, the rubber band expands on what's possible.
Yes.
And that, I think, is where people often fall short. And what we're trying to do at Keep Hustling is that they're not willing to just see what will happen if they stretch it. And if they do, then they'll achieve it and then they'll stretch it again the next day or the next week. And that's where the greatness comes.
I 100% agree. And the hardest part is that we're gonna face rejection along the way. So so as Aaron was saying, you tell someone you're gonna run a marathon, people are gonna be like, no, you can't. No, you can't. No, like then there's some people that say you can do it, but you have to have that mental fortitude of I got this. Or if you don't have that mental fortitude, you're gonna need a coach or someone there that's supporting you in your corner saying, yeah, we do this all the time. So you might even need to get involved in like a running community where there many people who have completed marathons. And you start to realize this. And again, for the audience, we're not talking about running here. We're talking about life. Like we're talking about everything. Like, and you start to realize it. Like when Aaron tells me he's got 5 kids, I go, how? That's incredible. Like,
I married a really, really outkicked my coverage. I want to ask you, I love that. I want to ask you about the 5 pillars. So you
yes.
mentioned the 5 pillars before. Can you repeat them? Because I have a question about them.
Yeah, it's mental health, physical health, community service philanthropy, spirituality, and relationships.
When you meet people for the first time and they want to engage with Edwards Consulting, which is the one that they overlook most?
So it's funny. When we started, I was focusing on financial because I wanted to help people with their finances. And I started to realize that if you want to get to know people, you have to have deep conversations. So by going through this, what we end up doing is we ask people their mental health today and then what a 10 might look like in that area if they really want to excel in it. And what ends up happening when you go through mental and physical health, that's very like self-serving. You know what I mean? Like when you're operating at a high level, that's very self. Community service philanthropy is very like outgoing, and most people are like, I don't even know what that is. Like, what does that word mean? Not really, but you know what I mean? They're just like, I haven't even thought about that much. And then spirituality is one where it's a little unique, where it's like, hey, I don't, how does that work? Like, where does that connect with me? So what I've realized is that there's many areas of life. And sometimes we're a 10 in all of them, sometimes we're a 3 in all of them, but sometimes we're a 10 in a few and 3 in a few. So we have to figure out, but if we really want a good life, we want to be higher up on these certain areas. So, I mean, the biggest ones that I'm always seeing people work with, obviously, overarching is financial. People are always like, tell me more about this. How does this work? You got some mental blocks that a lot of people are facing. Like, I did a group coaching call this morning, and I said, hey, if money was abundant in your life, what would you change? One. And then two, how would your mindset change? And everyone was like, I might stop worrying. I would stop worrying so much about these things that aren't so important. And then I'm like, there's also homeless people in India who don't worry about money at all because they're looking at a different scoreboard. You know what I mean? And you start to realize these things.
But do you believe that the average person can change their scoreboard or should view at a different meaning? It is true that there are people that always have it worse and always have it better. But in the end of the day,
Yeah.
I'm playing with the deck of cards that I have.
Yeah.
So, and I'm challenging you a little bit on it. I hope that's okay. But like,
Yeah, of course. I love that.
it's all well and good to hear about the person in India who doesn't have any food.
Yeah.
To me, that's equally as useless, quote unquote. And let me finish before you get upset because I want to hear your response. Than comparing me to Jeff Bezos. Meaning,
Yeah.
thankfully, I'm in a certain position where wealth is not abundant. I still work very hard, but it would be really, really difficult for me not to be able to afford food. It might not be nutritious food, but to be able to, that would be like that would be as unlikely probably than me reaching the level of wealth as Jeff Bezos. But yet somehow people can associate more with the downward scoreboard, quote unquote, the person who has no food, than the upward scoreboard when really the distance might be the same.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. That's really, yeah, because I mean, With financials, I think it comes down to habits. Like, I think habits are what hold us back.
But do you hear what I'm saying? I mean, like when you said that, your
Yeah.
immediate reaction from the group, and
Well,
I think it would be in any group, was, "Wow, that's powerful." But what? But the original question was, what if wealth was abundant and nobody was thinking that? Nobody was thinking, what if I was Elon Musk? What if I had $200 billion? Nobody
yeah.
ever thinks that.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that I think that, especially as it relates to people's hustle, it's like people will always tick to the negative. And if you tick to the negative, it's much harder.
Yes.
The other four pillars, your spirituality is taken down, your mental health is taken down, your physical health is taken down. And yet, if
Yeah.
you played to the higher,
Yes.
both equally as unlikely in the scenario that we're painting.
But it
If you,
would make more sense.
it,
Yes. No, I really like, for an example, yesterday I was with my rabbi. He's out of Tampa, Rabbi Levy, and he ended up doing this cool thing. He gives me a call and he's like, "Hey, like, come on, I want to show you something." And I'm like, "What's going on?" And usually we're like doing some like religious stuff, and he ends up taking me to Walmart, and he goes, "Look at what I did here." And he got kosher food into Walmart. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up is because his goal was to share. He wanted the community to be able to have authentic kosher food. He's like, there's some, like, you'll probably get this. He's like, there's some BS kosher food, but there's like authentic kosher food from Israel. And like, he's like, I
and
want
there's
this to
there's
be
a lot
available.
of Orthodox Jewish people descending on Tampa these days. So
Exactly. So he's like, if I want to make this work, I want to make a community. Now, the crazy thing that happened for him was the Jewish distributor that he got in there called him and he goes, no one's ever gotten us into Walmart before. Like, how did you do that? And he goes, I followed up weekly. And he goes, why? And he's like, because I wanted my community to have this. Now, what ended up happening was his whole goal was to bring accessible food to the Orthodox people. So he ends up getting it in there. Then he calls other rabbis in other areas of the country and he goes, go try to bring them into Walmart because they said that they authenticated that brand, like that they got that distributorship in. He finds out once it gets approved once, it's approved everywhere. So he's like, now these people are going in and like can just get it off just start ordering it. Like you go to the manager and you say, start ordering this. But his big goal was just to help his one community. So it's not about just the food, but it's about he had a big goal for himself, but it was big to him. And then it scaled 100x because now it's become accessible to all these people through the one connection he made.
and because he thought that Walmart wasn't too big of a fish to catch.
He didn't realize it. He didn't even have any reference point. He just goes, "This is the food store down the street from me."
That's what I'm saying. Had he in his mindset, oh, that's Walmart, and they probably have a procurement department that's in some corporate office that you're never going to get to, he never would have done it because sometimes people feel that the goal is it's too far.
Yes.
The dream is too outlandish. And what I feel, especially with this podcast and with this movement that we're trying to create of Keep Hustling, is all you got to do is just shoot for the stars. Everybody fails. I've said this
Yes.
on multiple episodes. Everybody fails. Nobody wants to see the skeletons, the business skeletons in the most successful people in the world's closets. Nobody. Maybe we should. And that's what the conversation is about. But I feel that so many people shoot so low because it's easier to drop to the lowest common denominator than it is to shoot for the highest one. And by the way, when you do, you can run the marathon. You can achieve that.
Yes. I think that's awesome.
I want to know. Okay, I'm gonna go on a little bit of a Keep Hustling tangent, just because this
Let's
has been
do
an
it.
intense conversation. So I read your bio, so I'm getting excited about having it here on the table. 25 countries. This is gonna be controversial, so we're gonna have some fun here. Other than the United States of America, your absolute favorite country to visit and your least favorite country to visit. We're rapid firing these now.
Okay, we're gonna go. My favorite one, just because I was able to study abroad, there was Italy, and then the one I did not enjoy that much.
Here we go. He's nervous. Just so you know, guys.
Yeah, no, it's
Look
gonna
at
it's
all of
gonna
a
be.
sudden, the
Yeah, no, it's
polished
gonna.
professional
It's.
podcaster.
I'm just gonna say somewhere in the not South America, but like it was like one of those cruise ports, and it wasn't for me.
It wasn't your vibe.
Yeah.
Do you feel that it's true? Now we're just gonna have some fun for a few minutes. Do you feel that it's true that what they say about Italian food, that you can eat the pasta and the pizza and you won't feel as nauseating as
Oh
here?
yeah, yeah, absolutely. We went for 7 weeks to Europe last year. Like me and my wife, we got married in November, but in
Congratulations.
March and April we went to Europe for 7 weeks, and we ate out every single meal. And at home we eat in every single meal, and we actually lost weight. It
I
was
love that.
bizarre.
You hiked the Inca Trail. Is that true?
Yes, I'm laughing because
It's in your bio. I'm having fun
no,
with this.
I'm laughing because my friend it was literally because my friend invited me in 2019. We had to delay this because of COVID 3 plus times. And when we ended up going, it was the first hike, like it's a 4-day hike. So it was the first hike from Cusco that they had in like 18 months. So we would literally hike up and these people were just so grateful. It was so incredible. They were clapping us in, like it was amazing.
What's the biggest lesson you learned
The
during those
biggest
four
thing I
days?
learned from hiking the trail, it was really that for me, it was that the journey is the destination. Everyone thinks it's Machu Picchu. You can take a bus up there, you can get there in an hour. We hiked for 4 days. Like it was ridiculous. But that's where you learn everything and that's where you start to enjoy stuff. And I started to realize that like I'm not in a rush to go get to the next level. I'm not in a rush to do this biggest thing. Like I'm on my own journey as we all are, and we're gonna get there when we get there.
Do you believe that people focus too much on the goal?
I think sometimes they don't allow themselves to be happy during the portion of the journey, which is kind of a reframe, which is where we a lot of us struggle because we're so like, once I have this, I'll get there. Once I have this, I'll get there. And then you're like, I wasted 15 years and now I'm just upset. Like,
Right. I think also when people are enjoying the journey and embracing the journey, you also have a level of being able to be present and also pivot,
yes.
right? Like I imagine that there's people who get on the trail or are on one of these journeys and weather or avalanche or a mudslide or something stops
I
them.
mean, yeah, it's
And
also, yeah,
and what I'm saying is, and if you're only focused on getting to X point, you won't say to yourself, like, I could totally see, like, I would love to do this and say, this is the craziest thing. I'm going to be able to go back and be able to say, we survived the mudslide. We went around it. There was a mudslide coming. This happened. And it was like, what do you mean? But you never got there.
yeah,
Well, here's why I didn't get there. A bear came and there was chased by a lion and I had taken my bone out, all this stuff. But yet, if you're only focused on the goal, and then that's the hustle culture that we're trying to break, because if you're only focused on the goal, then when you don't get to the goal, you feel like a failure when really along the way you've achieved so much of this success and really you could parlay that into a better success.
yes, yes,
So
absolutely. I mean, we literally saw people because the elevation's like 11, 12,000 feet elevation. We literally saw people have to go back. Like, I mean, I
she
completely agree. Yeah, I mean, you're up there. That's like 2 miles high. Like, it's no joke. And you start to realize that no matter, and but the other really good thing about these people, where you start to realize you don't need that much. Like, we ended up going into Equidos afterwards, which is a jungle town. Literally, I go, "Where's the bathroom?" They just let me outside. Like, they're like, "Go outside." There's no infrastructure, no
you're
nothing.
like, am I?
Like,
I do that with my dog.
I am the dog.
I love that. I love the fact that you take people on the journey through the pillars, and each person has different focuses and reframes. And I feel like so many people don't realize that there are the five pillars. And if they would
Yes.
realize it, because I feel like also part of the idea, and correct me if I'm wrong on the five pillars, is if I am strong in one and I'm weak in the other, I can sometimes embrace the one I'm strong at or that I focus on, but also recalibrate to the other if it's not working. And so many people don't realize that we have multiple cylinders in our engine.
Yeah, and it's this whole idea of like a recalibrate also. Like for me, like I don't think I'm the strongest spiritually, but how do I recalibrate it? I'm friends with a rabbi. Like, you know what I mean? If you get exposure to this stuff and you start to set up frequent meetings, then you're going to get different areas of improvement. So it's just how important it is to you. And I think as you're seeing it a lot in our 20s where people and 30s where people are just going all in on work sometimes to be like, I want to make the money so I can get out. Some people are going the complete opposite direction. They're like, I don't want to work at all. And it's just realizing no matter what you do, you have to enjoy today, but you also have to set yourself up for tomorrow, which I think is one of the biggest things. And that's regarding mentally, physically, emotionally, financially, all of this, because it's not an easy journey.
I think it's not easy, but I think that most people don't realize that you can achieve success. You can be
Yes.
successful in the journey if you take it that one step at a time. Because as I think we've been saying, right? If you focus on only how difficult the journey is, you'll never get started. If you never get started, you have zero chance of succeeding.
Yeah, and the
So
other big thing, so the other part I didn't include was before we do the 5 pillars, we start off with a 5-year vision, like a really detailed vision. And the reason for that, you need to know what success means to you. Like, so I've talked to people and they're like, yo, success to me is I can do 10 push ups. Someone else said success is I run 100 miles. Like, everyone has their own definition, but we don't take the time to do that. So I would definitely leave you with the audience realizing, like, hey, what is success to you? Is it the car house that America has sold us? Or is it traveling around and being completely nomadic? Or is it living on a boat? Or is it like being home? Like, it's whatever you want it to be. Like, you just define your version of success. I'm not saying I'm right, Aaron's not right, but it's what is success to you? And I don't think a lot of us think about that big question.
I absolutely love that. We have a closed edition on this podcast where we ask our guests to leave us with their favorite motivational, inspirational quote. And with that, I'm going to say, Jordan Edwards, thank you for being here. Thank you for inspiring me. Thank you for inspiring me to things I'm never going to do, like run marathons, although I don't want to say never. And everyone should check you out. All of your contact information is below. Check out the podcast, and I'll turn the floor over to you.
Awesome. I really appreciate the time. And favorite quote, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, by Wayne Gretzky. And the reason for that is because we need to realize and we need to reframe what failure is, and we need to reframe what rejection is, and realize that in the beginning, we don't have anything. So if someone gives us an opportunity and then they reject us, cool. We got one meeting. And then if someone accepts us as a client, cool. Now we went from 0 and now we have one client.
So that's 100% improvement.
Yes. And then we lose that client. We're back at 0, but we're back where we were before with more lessons, with more wisdom, with more experiences. So keep shooting the shot, keep trying, keep giving it your effort. And I really hope to connect with you guys soon. Just message me on Instagram. I'm pretty active on there. It's at Jordan F. Edwards, and we'll talk very soon. Thank you.
Awesome. This has been another episode of Keep Hustling. Remember, do well by doing good, and always keep hustling. All right, hustlers, that brings us to the end of another fantastic episode. Thank you for listening. The listeners are the most important part of this show. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Your feedback means the world to us and helps us reach more listeners. Plus, be sure to subscribe to our podcast so you never miss an episode. We have some amazing guests and topics lined up for you, and we don't want you to miss out. And finally, if you have any suggestions, comments, or even just want to say hello, please feel free to reach out to us on all social media platforms. We are Keep Hustling Pod on Instagram, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We would love to hear from you to continue the conversation. Thanks again for tuning in and supporting our podcast. We truly appreciate each and every one of you. Until next time, stay curious, stay hungry, and keep hustling.